It's another special edition of PFTPM, our post-draft interview series with general managers from around the NFL. And we're talking now to a gentleman who got the job in Atlanta a year ago. This is draft number 2 that has just concluded for Terry Fontenot. He joins us now. Terry, welcome to the program. Great to finally talk to you.
Yep. I appreciate you having me, Mike.
And congratulations on your success. I did a little research. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes it can be dangerous because I end up thinking that I saw things I didn't actually see. But one thing that I saw loudly and clearly in your background, you are a Louisiana guy through and through. Lake Charles, Tulane, all those years with the Saints. How did they let you take a job with the Falcons?
Look, I appreciate you doing that research. And look, I still love all my family back home in Louisiana. And man, I couldn't be more excited about being here in Atlanta. And, you know, it's funny how living my whole life in Louisiana, but once I got here, it didn't take long to really get accustomed to everyone here. My family, I have 4 kids, and you would think they've lived here for their whole life. So very quickly, because of this community, this region, they really take you in as family, and we feel like we've lived here for our whole life.
Quite a rivalry, though, still between the Saints and the Falcons, all the stories from the days. I remember the time the buses were egged. I think it was Saints buses at the Atlanta airport, right?
Yeah.
Were you on those buses when they got egged?
I don't remember that.
Yeah. A new future in the rivalry as you continue to work forward with the Falcons. Let me ask you this before we get into some nuts and bolts of what happened in this draft. Your own experience coming out of Tulane, deciding to pursue a career in football and landing as you did as a scout. What drew you to that aspect of the NFL process?
Yeah, and I was just blessed with a really good opportunity. When I tell that story, there was never a time where I said I want to be an NFL scout. I was kind of raised a certain way, just to do your very best in every moment and work like it depends on you, pray like it depends on God. And I believe this was meant to be for me. But when that opportunity just to work on the business side with the Saints came, I did an internship and I worked as hard as I could. And you blink your eyes and you keep getting promotions, and all of a sudden you're the assistant GM. So I really believe I just kind of kept my head down and worked. And this is something that I have passion for, and it worked out for me.
It's amazing how long you were with the Saints, too. You don't see that kind of stability in the NFL. What's the biggest lesson you learned during your time in New Orleans that prepared you best for the job you have now?
And I would say everything you do needs to be inclusive. There's never, it's not a dictatorship. There's never one person, whether it's a coach or a GM, that's making all the decisions. It has to be an inclusive process in everything you do in the decision making. You have to surround yourself with really smart people and trust and empower them. And if you do that, whether we're talking about football or any other business, if you do that, then you will have a level of success.
I want to get to one of the big dynamics in the NFL right now, and there are different teams that approach it differently, and that is the acquisition of receivers, whether it's developing a player who becomes a star and gets paid a lot of money by that team, whether it's going out and drafting a new guy and hoping for the best, or trading for somebody else's veteran receiver. This year for you, the right decision was to use that 8th overall pick on the first receiver taken in the draft, and Drake London. What has brought you down on the side of the best course for us is to go ahead and jump in with a rookie and hope that we can develop Drake London into a future star?
Yeah, great question. And you're right. It's interesting what happened with the receiver position this offseason via trade, in free agency, what the numbers were, and also in the draft, the way they came off the board. For us, we set the board, and we have an amazing staff. Our scouting staff is led by Kyle Smith, and they work along obviously with the coaches and the entire building. And we have a very inclusive process, and we set the board, Mike, and we take the players off the board. So when we drafted Drake London, he was the best player on the board, and we're excited to take him at that point. If it would have been a defensive player or another skill position on offense or whatever position, we would have taken that player off the board. So we never felt like we had to take a receiver at that spot. So Now, when you look at how the draft came out, obviously it was a very highly valued position, and we can see why. But for us, we stuck with the integrity of the board, and we were disciplined because of all the work that went in, and Drake truly was the best player on the board.
When you go through the process, Terry, of setting your board, how hard is it to set aside your needs? Because you clearly needed a receiver. How do you keep that from influencing and skewing your assessment of a prospect so you don't bump him up higher, so you can say, okay, we had a real need at that position. We got it taken care of. Coincidentally, that was the highest rated guy that we had when it was time for us to pick.
Yeah, well, when you're a prisoner of the moment and you're thinking about right now, Mike, that can be difficult, and you want to grade on the curve and pump some air and some guys to get them up when you're a prisoner of the moment. But for us, we're focusing on the big picture and focusing on the process, and we're looking at progress over perfection. So with that, we need to add good players at every position. Now, what can happen, Mike, when you're setting your board, for instance, you see it in the second round for us, where we had Ebiketie at a certain spot. He's a really good pass rusher, and so we traded up to get him, but we wouldn't have reached for another. If he's off the board, we wouldn't have reached for anyone at our spot. We would have taken the best player off the board. So I think where that comes into play, Mike, when you want to take players that fit needs, that comes more into play in terms of moving around the draft, whether you're trading up for a player or trading back for a player. But in setting the board, you just want to not be a prisoner of the moment and understand that you need to add to each position and set the board so that you're really going to take the best players off the board at the appropriate time.
When you're putting that player's name in, Drake London specifically, the first receiver drafted this year, do you consider at all this broader dynamic I've noticed with the position? And I'll use Michael Thomas as the best example of it. If you get a receiver who gets drafted later than he thought he was going to get drafted, falls to round 2, that lights a fire that never goes out. It seems like it never goes out in his entire career. Whereas if it's the first receiver off the board, now I know it worked out well for Jamar Chase and the Bengals last year, but there's a little extra pressure. Like, do you factor into that? If this is our guy at number 8, we think he's going to be able to handle the pressure and the expectation and the scrutiny, and he's not going to be satisfied that he's arrived, that he was the first receiver taken. He's still going to have some fire. Maybe it's because he wasn't taken first overall instead of 8th overall. But do you factor that into your assessment?
Well, we do. We start with the makeup, but when players are wired the right way, because if you think of it, Mike, there can always be, whether a player was drafted high, there's a level of expectation, or even once he has success, even if he was drafted later and once he has success and signs a big contract, there's a level of expectation. So at some point, it's going to come out that true character is going to be revealed. So we believe that when you draft the right players that are wired the right way and acquire the right players, they have the right makeup. And so they're going to handle it the right way. They're going to come in and they're always going to have that fire on a daily basis, and they're going to work. And even if they do get a big contract, they're still going to be wired the right way. So that's why we believe in bringing in the guys that are wired the right way, that have the right intangibles, that have the right makeup. The character part is so important just because of those things.
Terry, the quarterback position was a wild card in this draft, a mystery for a lot of people inside and outside of the NFL. When the dust settled on round 1 on Thursday night, how surprised were you that only one quarterback had been taken?
Well, I wouldn't say surprised, because the other teams were operating the same way we did. And there were so many good players in this draft and in the first round. When you go through the first round, go through the 32 picks, a lot of really good football players came off the board. Same with the second round. We're excited to get the players that we got in the second round. Not that it's not a negative on any of the quarterbacks, but we were taking the best players off the board, and a lot of really good football players got taken off the board. So I know it was unique in this year, just like all the receivers that went. Not as many quarterbacks went, but when you look at the players that went, there were a lot of good football players that came off the boards.
So when you get to round 3 and you select Cincinnati's Desmond Ridder, when there are other options available at quarterback, what set him apart? What made him your guy in that spot?
Yeah, so at that point, he truly was. He was the best guy off the board, and we were excited to take him off because we spent time with Desmond, as we did the other quarterbacks throughout the process. And I remember going into Cincinnati and after he worked out, getting to sit in a room with him, and we talked to him a lot, and he went through how they brought that program to a different level. And he talked about, he was very selfless and humble in the way he talked about his teammates and the coaching staff and what they did. I think it's special what they're able to do at Cincinnati, raising that program to another level. And you knew we had a player that he does have a chip on his shoulder. He always has felt like he has something to prove. And he's one of those guys that whether he goes in the first round or the seventh round, he's going to be that type of worker that brings it every day. So we're excited to take Desmond at that time, excited about the time we spent with him, and we're excited to get him here so he can go to work.
Is it harder to evaluate quarterbacks, Terry, because there are so many intangibles like that you need to get right? You need to know that you're getting a guy who's going to show up early, stay late, do all the things you need him to do, hold his teammates accountable, be a guy who can walk into the locker room and command attention. Does it make it harder than for any other position to gauge exactly what you're getting?
Boy, those intangibles are so critical. And the tough thing about the entire college process is we're projecting. And it's not because obviously in their element, they handle things a certain way, but we're projecting what they're going to be once they get here. But our process, I really appreciate our process. And again, starting with our college staff and getting into the coaches and all the work that goes into it, we really appreciate our process. And we believe that we have a really good group that is evaluating these players. So it is difficult at that position, in any position, to come in and make this transition. These are young men. Some of them are 20 years old now. And when we bring them in, there's a lot of things that they're going to be going against. So once they get in the building with all of them, we have to make sure we have clear development plans and we're able to support them in all the ways that we can.
From an outsider's perspective, how should we view the Falcons quarterback depth chart going into this year? Is it Marcus Mariota, or is it competition, or is it something else?
I would say at any depth chart, any position on our depth chart, it's all the same. That right now we're going to have, going into camp, we're going to have 90 players all competing to be the 53 plus 16. And then on a weekly basis, they're going to be competing to get a jersey on game day to be one of the 48. That's truly how we see this. We're continuing to add competition at every position. And that's what's really exciting about this.
When you evaluated Desmond Ridder, was part of the goal to try to find someone who projected to having a similar skill set to Marcus Mariota, so you'd have a seamless playbook between one guy and the other? Was that part of the consideration at all?
I wouldn't say that was a part of the consideration. I would say we just evaluated the player, but it is cool to look at the quarterback room right now, and we rival. There's not many quarterback rooms that look like that with Marcus and Desmond and also Felipe Franks. I mean, they look good coming off the bus, some big athletic guys, but again, they're all really good human beings as well. And Marcus Mariota, as soon as he was here and found a house and he was in the building, and he's been here working as much as he possibly can. Anything that he can legally do, he's going to do it. To try to be the best football player he can be. So it's been exciting to see him work, and Desmond is wired that same way. So that's obviously important to us. And yeah, it's a big athletic looking group.
Has Marcus started bringing that spam around? We saw him at the Super Bowl one year and he was pushing spam.
I haven't seen the spam yet. No, I haven't. Does he really eat that?
Maybe he's gotten away from the spam. Maybe that's why he's still playing all these years later.
I hope he's not eating that.
Another big athletic guy on your team, Grady, Jarrett. There was some uncertainty about his status. There were some whispers. Maybe he doesn't fit or whatever. Boom, 3-year extension. What caused you to conclude it was the right time to do another contract with a guy who's been around for a while?
Boy, that's really exciting. And you look at this offseason with Grady, Jarrett, Jake Matthews, and Younghoe Koo. Those are 3 foundational pieces in each phase that we're able to get extensions done with, and that's really important for us moving forward. Our administration staff, Chris Olson, Kirsten Groves, have worked really hard on those contracts, and we're really excited because the common thing with each one of those players is they're good players and they're even better human beings. And when we're building something, those are the kind of players that we want to build around. You're going to bring in a lot of young players, and we have an infusion of young talent. So we want to make sure we have consummate pros in the building. So we're excited about all those players. And Grady, Jarrett, we couldn't be more thrilled about getting that done.
if you pay attention to the headlines of Pro Football Talk, and I know you do, you may have seen that Matt Ryan recently said that but for the pursuit of Deshaun Watson, he'd still be with the Falcons. Do you agree with his assessment of the way things could have fallen out differently?
I don't know. I haven't seen. I usually do. I do pay attention to Pro Football Talk, and I click refresh on that a lot, obviously, but I haven't seen that yet. And I don't know the context that it was in. But look, Matt Ryan is a special man, and the type of professional that he is. We appreciated our opportunity to spend an entire year with him and his family, and he's awesome. We appreciate the Colts throughout that whole process. Everything was handled with a high level of professionalism, and we're happy for him and where he is now, and we're moving forward, and we're excited about our quarterback room.
One more.
As soon as I get off this call, I'm going to go to PFT and catch up on the news that I haven't caught up on.
Good. That's good. That's very good. And that means I'm going to let you go quicker so you can get to it. We need the traffic. But I haven't read the article myself. I just saw the headline. One of my other people wrote it, but I thought I need to ask Terry about that. One other thing I want to ask you about this Deshaun Watson thing, because it kind of came out of the blue that you guys were involved. And Chris Sims has suggested that Deshaun Watson actually reached out to the Falcons and asked the Falcons to get involved. It wasn't a case of the Falcons getting involved. Who made the first move on that?
Well, again, I don't want to really rehash. He's on another roster right now. So without rehashing that, Mike, and going back to that, I will say that we're always going to turn over every stone, and we're going to explore every possibility moving forward here. And that's the way we're going to operate. So without talking specifically about that, he's on another roster right now, but I would say we're going to explore everything possible. If there's an opportunity to improve this football team, we're going to explore it.
Anytime I say one more question, I guarantee that there's going to be one more. You got 4 kids. How hard has it been to get them to set aside the Saints fandom and accept the Falcons? Do you have any holdouts that are still Saints fans?
No, it's I appreciate you asking about my children, but it really hasn't. It's amazing how quick that change happens. And I remember vividly the last Saints game, and it was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I was sitting in the press box, and afterwards I come down and I'm with my family and with the kids, and it's emotional naturally because we all knew there was a chance that was the last game. And so that night we agreed with the Falcons, and instantly it's crazy how it happens, Mike, and I can't explain it. But being somewhere so long and being with that team, and you live and die in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But when I say instantly, there's an instant transition to the Falcons, and we were diehard Falcons right away, and each one of them were. So I appreciate you asking about my family, and they're all about the Falcons.
Sounds like they're smart kids.
They are smart kids.
Falcons pay daddy now. All right, hey, Terry. Yeah, congratulations on all your success and all the best moving forward. Hope to do this again sooner rather than later.
Anytime, Mike. I really appreciate you, man. I'm going to go check PFT right now.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.